good. Good way to start the day with. And thank you for sharing, Frida. It's good to see everybody. See a lot of great, familiar, beautiful faces. I'm so glad to be here with you today. We're doing a little bit of strength and stretch, and I'm gonna share a screen with you about movements that are always my top ones. I like to send my patients and my clients home with what I call a takeout menu. And those are always 5 or 6 things that you can do at home for your balance or for your strength or for your flexibility and mobility. And today we are talking about flexibility and mobility, and we're talking about just feeling overall a little bit better. And I have everything kind of like listed, but I will kind of go through it with you and just throw some extra things in. But just to give you an idea what you can do in a chair, what you can do standing, or what you can do sitting on the floor if you have a yoga mat. Um, and some of us, that's my big thing always. Um, I always like to say you have to, if you're on the couch, if you're watching a good movie, you have to get off the couch once in a while and maybe even sit on the floor and kind of scoot down on your mat and get a stretch in that way, right? Because then we don't have those problems that I always talk about, which is lower back and just overall stiff this system, our bones and our hips and lower back and hamstrings. So I always talk about that so much. And yes, Frida, absolutely. Prayers for you, honey. Just thank you for sharing and for everyone. So I'm always thinking about you. I'm grateful, so grateful also for this group. And I just love to be here this morning. So what I want to share with you is a little bit of where that comes from. I started lately, the last couple of months, calling my programs overall wealth care, and I do that because it's a nice combination of well-being and healthcare, or wellness and healthcare. And I always say that you have to do the alternative thing, right? What we call alternative. And it's not really an alternative. It should be the first thing that we kind of start moving a little bit, trying to find our balance, trying to find our strength back, just trying to find our body back. Sometimes this weekend I was on stage on the presentation and I told the ladies, it was only women for women. And I told the ladies, get your sexy back, right? Whatever that means for you, right? That you feel a little bit better on the outside. And sometimes, like I always say, that helps even if we just put nice clothes on and we kind of dress up and put our eyes on, put our face on, right? Then you just feel a little bit better, even if you're in a blah mood getting up. And that's very understandable. We all go through that. And I have many blah mornings. So I need to put my sexy back on sometimes just to help me just get up and going so that other people might say, oh, you look nice, or I love that color on you. And then you automatically already feel a little bit better, right? We talk about that a lot when we talk about anxiety. And today we also talk about putting that body back on, staying strong and keeping a little bit healthier. And like you all shared with me as well, you're looking to do the small things that help you into that well care, that helps you get your own toolbox for anxiety, get your own toolbox for strength, get your own toolbox for flexibility, because we're not always able to go somewhere. I don't have time to go everywhere. So today I'm going to give you a couple ideas again for strength and for balance and stuff that we talk about a lot, and add some to that repertoire. So I want to go from already being healthy to what it does for you overall healing, and when you feel better physically, um, not just emotionally feeling better, mentally feeling better, just having a little bit more of a toolbox, but also that will offset kind of like the inner healing, right? It's all about mindset, and then just kind of feeling better, doing things for yourself that are healthier and better. And you do get a lot of information also from my very, very, very good friend Trisha Silverman, who always shares. She taught me that sugar wasn't everything. Did I ever share that with you? She taught me that sugar wasn't everything I would ever eat. And, oh my, she's so amazing. And when I just learned that from her years ago, I started paying more attention to the labels. I always say if I'm in the store, if there's no peanuts in the peanut butter, there's something wrong, right? But anyway, so we want to come to overall healing and feeling healthier. Now, to start with some breakdown of exercises that you can, exercise routines that you can break down. You can start, for instance, saying, well, I just want to get my cardiovascular stamina back up. I just want to feel a little bit better. Not all of us are able to walk, but sometimes, even if you're holding on to a chair, you can do a step in place, you can do shoulder rolls. And if you are stepping in place and you're walking in place and you do some shoulder rolls, then your heart rate already will go up. So sometimes it's just not even taking it to the really difficult thing, like everybody would say, well, I'm just thinking cardio, I'm just thinking that I have to go run and get on the treadmill. That is not always the case. The slightest little bit that we can do to raise our heart rate will bring our hearts to a stronger position. This will strengthen our heart. So if you are just doing a step in place and you want to just do some arms with that, anytime you raise your arms above your heart level, you are getting a better result out of that. So you're increasing your cardiovascular stamina, you're increasing that heart rate and that pounding. So if you're just doing your arms over your head and you're walking in place, that will all add on to a stronger heart. So not always do you have to do the running. You don't have to be on the treadmill. We don't all have to drop that sweat on the floor. It's just a little bit less that you can do to start with. And sometimes I cannot run anymore. So sometimes I go for a good walk. But the more I move my arms with the walk, the more I feel my heart rate going up. So if that is just anything that you can add. Or let's say that you can just do a step in place, shoulder roll, and you can step touch to the side, right? That's on here, the step touch. And the step touch is just when you're stepping to the side and when you're touching the floor, it's all there is to it. Just a step touch. But now, if I'm going to add arms to it, if you're able to do that, then you're adding the cardiovascular start. So that is not for everybody, and some of us are not able to do that. But anytime you do anything over your heart or over your head, and you even sit in a chair and you're just pushing your arms up in a just in a good tempo, then you're gonna get the heart rate. So it's not per definition that we have to be on the treadmill. So I hope there's something for everybody. So let's say that you want to play with the tempo or you want to add arm combinations to it. That's all good. Just keep moving, even if you're sitting down, keep moving because now you're just really starting to feel your heart go faster. And if you're adding a bottle of water or you're adding a can, remember we don't have to have weights or buy weights. But now, if I have two bottles of water in my hands, all of a sudden I start really feeling that increase of my heart rate. And that's what I want to pay attention to. My breathing, of course, you don't want to hold back. You want to just, right, keep a nice deep breath while you do it. But just a lot of busy here with arms or with bicep curls or just kind of like making it a little fun for yourself is adding on to, that's why I call it cardio fun because I used to have a program that was popular that I presented all over the country that was called the F word in fitness. It was all about fun. It was all about fitness, functionality, and friends. Actually, not in that order. Fun with friends first, right? Because I used to say that because when I still have my studio. But if people are coming to my studio for my classes, for core strength classes or for yoga classes, if they're coming to my class, they come from for each other, just like we are here. We're here also for each other, just to see each other and to have that company and to feel that we are together and that we have this friendship and that's what we're coming for and that we can talk to each other and share and connect, right? It's all about connection and about caring for each other. And that's the same what happens really in the yoga studio. And then now the fact that they're doing some fitness and some functional fitness, is great too with that. So whatever we can find to do a little fast And sometimes you just have to put some fun music on with it. And I'm talking fun music would be, yeah, 60s, 70s, just the Donna summer disco era. And then you got that good tempo, right, that we used to do all that stuff. So think Richard. You'll know what I mean when I say Richard. Think the whole, 1, 2, 3, 4 tempo thing that you can play with when we used to have Richard Simmons. So you can dance always. Cardio and dance is always together. It's always the same. If you just kind of feel, even if you hold on to something and you just hold on to your chair and just shake it all and dance a little bit in place, it makes you happy. Dancing and movement are the oldest, most underutilized exercise healing powers, right? The healing powers that we have, exercise and dance to get it going. So, and I also have this written down for you so you can get it. Um, so that is a little bit of the cardio. If we want to do that, even if we sit down, just keep pressing and moving your arms over your head so that your heart rate will go up. If we're talking strength training in legs, we have done that a lot. We really want to start with what I remember worked on in March, I think, or maybe it was in January. And we worked on balance and we worked on strength sitting down and little balance exercises that will gain strength. When we have something to hold on, which I prefer. If you are feeling that you can try to stand up, then you have something to hold on to. That is the best thing for your balance, right? So just to train the balance. And if you do train the balance, and automatically we can add a tiny little bit to that. If we're sitting down, then I think I did that 2 months ago with you, but I will go over that now. If we're sitting down, you can do some things in the chair that will help your leg strength as well. So remember that I said if you're sitting down, that you have to, whoops, gonna throw that off, all in the way. That was just for pretty. Oh, so if you're sitting down, always come to the end of the chair so that you can stand up and sit down. One of the most demanding exercises that we can do, that I always do to see how strong someone is if they come to me for the first time for training and for strength. Then you kind of have to hold your leg up while you're sitting up straight and while you put your back up. You have to hold your leg up in the air. But see how I'm all scooted up to the end of the chair. So I'm really scooted to the ends. And then if I hold my leg up one at a time, I have to hold it for 30 seconds. If I hold it for 30 seconds and I can do that, that is a very good indicator that you're working on that strength training. So you have to sit all the way up and then put that leg out. So if you're sitting on the edge of the chair, your hamstrings are not on the chair. So that's the trick. See, if you're sitting and scooting up at the end, you really have to hold that whole leg. So the idea is that your upper legs are working and that your quadriceps are working, the upper leg muscles. And the inner and the outer thighs are very important. And we talked about that because that comes in with balance so much. Right? You've got the inner and the outer thigh. And the outer thigh, we call that whole part of our body, our lateral support system, is really, really important when we are afraid of falling or walking in a steady gait and things like that. So that is really important that we kind of train that. So if we sit down, you can hold on to the chair, but you want to do one leg lift and try to hold it, starting with 10 seconds and then maybe 20 and then maybe 30 seconds. And then put it down and then lift the other one. Right? That is a really good exercise to start with and to strengthen the upper legs. And for posture, we did all this stuff. Remember when we sit on the edge of the chair and we just lengthen our spine and stand up straight. Now, if we can do it standing, I'm going to hold on to my chair as well. Put my chair here. If we do it standing, I can do parallel squats. I want to hold on to my chair just for safety. and I'm doing parallel squats right here. So it looks like, if I hold on with two hands, it looks like this. My feet are always hip width. I'm bending my knees straight over my feet. So that we pay attention to that is really important, because if we do that, then we make sure that we're not out of alignment and our knees, this was something else, remember? Our knees are not collapsing inwards and outwards. That was a little, was that a chicken dance? Na 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 na. So if we are having our legs over hip width, we ought to be into that parallel position with our knees always over our feet. So if you're holding on, or if you're doing that without support, support always better. Remember, just you make 5 and then you start with 10 squats. You just add on a little bit in time till you get to the 5 squats. So the open position squats are a little bit more difficult because now my feet are slightly turned out. So what I like to do, if you want to do the strength training, hold on or do it with your hands on your leg. So my knees have to go over my toes and I'm doing the wider open position squats. I'm just trying to keep my back straight. I don't have to go so low. We are not into, we're not in some kind of a crazy training where you have to sit all the way down. We're just having to go with the upper legs. And if I do that, I feel with those little squats, I feel immediately that they're kicking in. And so if you want to do that holding on to something, do it on, or if you're sitting down, of course, do the leg lift so you feel the upper leg. If you're standing, do the little squats. And if you do it a little wider, make sure you're not going too deep because that would not be very healthy for your back. And then we get that problem. So these are the first things that you can do. And I'm going to add on, because we talked about that so much, I'm going to add on what we did last month and just kind of add on a little balance. But now I'm going to add balance and strength. So remember how we lift the heel, the knee a little bit up to the front, and then just the toe a little bit off the floor to check our balance. We did that. I remember. Now I'm going to add strength training to it. I'm going to leave this leg off the floor. I'm going to make 5 knee bends. Woo! On the other leg. And I can feel that right away. I'm going to make 5 knee bends on one leg. Now, if you feel that right away, that is immediately going into that upper leg. Now we're adding balance and we're adding even a strength training to the balance. So I have that here, alternate knee lifts, just repeaters, right? From 5 to 10 maybe the next day, and just on one leg. And I can feel that. I'm just kind of feeling that upper leg working, and all that I have to do constantly is be aware of the fact that my knee is going over my toes. That is really, really important. So I want you to be more on the safe side, because for me, safety is always first. And secondly, what I always do with us young 50 plussers, I always say we have to be safety first. And secondly, we have to take it back to more to simple, less choreographed. Just go back, break it down, go back to the simple way, because I always say simple and effective brings more results for us. So we, like I said, we don't have to do complicated dance choreography things. We just have to break the exercise down. What can you do with a parallel squat? Well, I can do a lot. I can do it with 2 legs. I can do it on one leg and practice my balance at the same time. I can do it a little wider. Or I can even hold the squat and then lift my heel. Heel lift and squat. So if I would do that holding onto the chair, I'm just doing the squat. And then in the squat, I'm doing a heel lift. Now that is really hard on the legs, but also really good to play with our balance. So be playful with just a couple of really simple ingredients, right? So you have the simple ingredients, but do more with it. And then the last one here is for us if we're a little bit more, if we're outdoorsy or we're a little bit better in movement that day and we feel a little bit stronger, then if you do a fallout lunge, right, you can just go to the side and put it back. Go to the side and put it back. We have in our basic movement patterns, lunges and squats are the essential two of the seven ingredients of our basic movement patterns. And a lunge, of course, comes in there because if you do a lunge to the side, you kind of fall. So this is one of the perfect things that I do for balance training as well. You kind of have to fall to that one foot and then bring it back to the center. And you know why now a lunge to the side is one of our basic movement patterns because that's exactly what we do when we fall, we catch ourselves. Or when we have to pick something up on the floor and we bring it back, right? So those are basic movement patterns. We have to be able to bend and do the squat or to fall to the side and pick something up or to step out to something or to catch ourselves. So I like to do it to the side because that's a really good way for us to practice our balance training as well. So if I would do a fall out to the side, I can still hold on. I can even make it a little longer, right? I'm doing the other side. I'm holding it a little bit longer and I push myself back. And because I have to push myself back to my foot, I really practice my balance there. And of course, at all times, just feel free to hold on to something with two hands because that gives you a little bit more. Right? So, hold questions, absolutely. But see what you can do with just a few things in the balance training and in the strength training at the same time with the leggies. And now, if we're sitting straight up, one leg out, the other leg out, try to hold it for 10, try to hold it for 20, try to hold it for 30. And then you can make variations there as well. So if I would sit all the way at the end of the chair and I pick one up, not two at a time, because then you're going to fall back. If you do two at a time, you're going to fall back in the chair. And then it's an abdominal exercise. But you can do a knee, and then you can do an exo rotation with the knee. So I really feel my upper leg working here, even in a very small movement pattern. Just kind of see if I can make those movements and I can really train myself to sit straight up. So that is the most important thing, that we keep our posture and we keep our back strong. Awesome. This is on the floor, on the yoga mat, a balance and strength exercise that we get to later. So arms and weights for strength. If we are doing 5 movement patterns or 5 things at home, we talked about that already a little bit. You can do all kind of different things with your weights, and if you don't have your weights, with your bottles or your 2 packs of sugar, right, or anything that you have. The most important thing, a lot of people don't think about, not so much holding something for strength, but not to break in the wrist. Does that make sense? So here is I got it. Here are my weights of the day. I got 2 nice smelly candles, brand new and heavy. They're probably 2 pounds or a pound and a half. But if I do this and I hold on to it, I do not want to break in my hands and in my wrist. You see that? So I always have to have the wrist straight if I want to lift something up. I have to keep the wrist in a straight line with my hand. And I see that a lot with training people. If you hold on to something, then we have the little weights, for instance, and we drop them. And then we hold them like this. Now, that is not very good because that will not help our wrists and our carpal tunnel and all that stuff. So you can just do the fun bicep curls. You can do the fun extensions to the front. And we call this the internal extension, right? So with the hands towards each other. Or you can have the arms go up and down with the palms of your hands to the floor. or rotate the shoulders and lift the palms of the hands up to the ceiling. And if you're doing this, just the front extensions, you really work in the strength of your shoulders, you work in trapezius, you work in the rear and the front deltoideus right here, the delt muscles. And we are trying to keep, and I'll talk about it in a little bit, the shoulders flexible as well. Right, just a little arm here, bicep curl. You can make variations with the bicep curl, or you can do it to the side bicep curl, but we do not want to break in the wrist if we're holding on to something. And we can do this sitting, of course, at all times, scooting up to the front of the chair so that our back is straight. That is always the most important thing of exercising in a chair, just not leaning back too much. So anything that I have here, I keep it below heart rate, remember? And now, well, my heart rate goes up. I mean, keep it below my heart level. And now I'm working above the level of my heart as well, adding a lot of cardiovascular stamina training here as well. One thing that I do over my head is that I try to keep it in my peripheral view and not too far back. If you're doing strength training for the arms, let's not go too far back because that's not good for our shoulders. So we don't want to do that. Did I just lose my share screen? What happened? That was weird. There we are. Yeah, there we are. I didn't do anything. It's so weird. And then if we are just going to the upright row, so we want to do this with our weights or our hands, and you can do it a little bit forwards. So now we use the back of our arm as well. If we do the rowing thing, right? So we just kind of row and pull our arms back. And if I'm sitting on the chair, all the same movements, I can do my arms. I can do them to the sides a little bit, and I can do them over my head, and I can do the push forwards with my hands. I can open them up to the side, wherever you want to play. Now, what I do in class a lot with my ladies is that we hold our arms for a little bit to the side, and then we turn them around. Just holding them will just increase strength. Just holding them. Isometric contractions, just holding them there, or just holding them there, or we can even go fun in again for our shoulders, and now we go shoulders and try biceps again. Yes. So keep it kind of simple again. If I want to add here again, if you only have 5 movements, the bicep and the bicep to the side, now bring in the shoulder strength, and because your elbows are up with the floor level, push up to the ceiling and push out forwards. We always have to have a push and a pull, right? In our basic movement patterns as well. So if you do that, or even if you do an alternate boxing movement here with something in your hands, then you immediately start adding strength in shoulders and arms. So upper body strength is important. It will help us again just to kind of sit up straight and work for our posture and just kind of take the back pain out as well, right? I always talk so much about, oh, relax those shoulders because we have too much tension in our shoulders and we keep it all there. Whoop, there they are. Right? If we go somewhere or something is new or something is a little scary, then whoop, we got all that tension in our shoulders and then we kind of have them up. So play with arm strength and um, and play with something in your hands, adding a little bit of additional weight to it. Now, if we talk about flexibility, stretch, and relax, these are also important. And I think we did some of them. So let's say that we sit on the chair. Basic movement patterns, right? When we're sitting on the chair, also adding a twist. So I'm sitting on the side and I'm going to add a twist. Here's my flexibility for my spine. Very important. So this is one of your basics. Even if you have in the chair, you do this one, right? Sitting up straight and kind of like slouch on the couch, sit up straight, slouch on the couch, sit up straight, that kind of thing. And now keep sitting up straight and then go around to the back and go around to the back. We have to keep the upper body flexibility. Now, if I want to stretch my lower back, I'm still sitting on the front of, not on the edge, I don't want you to fall off, but in the front of the chair. So I'm opening my legs a little bit and I'm gently gonna go forward. Just a little bit forward on my legs. They're open so that if I want to go a little bit further, I can go all the way and try to hang between the legs. If you want to hold on to them for safety, you just go forward. Just go forward. Just round your back. And then just a little bit further. And then maybe hold on to the legs and just slide a little bit further. Now you can see that every time you drop your head down as well, you get that super amazing stretch in the shoulder area between the shoulder blades as well. So we definitely want to just relax the shoulders and our head if we're hanging forwards. And yeah, can you hear me? And up. So I'm being silly. So if you're just hanging forward and you feel the back stretch, then if that gets a little easier, I go a little deeper in that stretch and you just let your head and your shoulders drop forward as well. And it feels so good. And then you come out of it and you pull yourself back up straight to a sitting position. Roll the shoulders back. Right? For flexibility, anytime that we start, even if we're sitting, just every morning, roll your shoulders. That feels so good. Roll them both at the same time. Just want to loosen up in the shoulders. You can just drop your head sideways or just without your hands. If that's difficult to just even keep your hand or your elbow up for a long time, don't have to. You can just whoop, stretch to the side. Not going backwards. I don't do back anymore. You know that from me, remember? Because I don't like that with all the, we used to do that with the Bob Fosse jazz hands. But we don't do that anymore because I don't like it when we drop our head back. And there's a lot of those crumbled nerves, and they're just not very healthy for the nervous system if we do anything wrong, because that's like danger zone. But forward, we can just drop our chin on our chest and really get a good stretch. I keep my shoulders in place and I really get a good stretch in the back of your neck. So you can start with that anytime. If we're sitting or standing, the same thing. So the twist, the forwards fold, and the figure four. The figure four is amazing for everybody. We gotta sit down for it because we did that. I'm sitting down and I'm gonna cross this foot if you can by your knee. This is very difficult for a lot of people. So this is that crazy sciatica stretch that I showed you before. But if you are able to cross over your legs, then you have to bring your body a little bit to that leg. It's a very difficult stretch, but we call that a figure four stretch. And if you're not able to do it at this point, don't do it. We always say later, right? We can do it later. So just a little, because it's really awkward on the knee and it's really awkward on the hip, but it really stretches that part of the muscles around the sciatic nerve. So that's why that is important. And on the floor seated, you can do the same thing. You can just kind of cross your leg over if you're sitting on the floor, even if you have something behind you. Sometimes it feels really good to sit on the mat on the floor, but have the wall behind you because it helps you to stay up straight. And that's just a good thing sometimes. Or in this case, even if you're sitting on a chair, even scooting back a little bit, if that helps you. Right? However, you are able to, if you can cross your leg over, what it does, if you can cross your leg over, what it does, it gives you a huge stretch on the sides, piriformis, that muscle that cramps up around our sciatic nerve. And that's what we need to stretch out. So remember how we always, if we get tense or if something is going on, our muscles are contracting, or they want to protect the pain and around the pain and they're always, and we forget that the opposite is to stretch and to release and to relax. So with everything, we always want to tense up. That's just an automatic fight flight behavior. Whoop. We want to tense up and tense all our muscles. And in our body, our muscles are doing that autonom, just by themselves, without us even telling them. They do that when there's pain and they do whoop, tense up. So what we can do is to relax. So the flexibility is major important for us. Just even if we try to keep our legs crossed a little bit, if you are able to just cross them a little bit, because even if I do a little bit, I feel that right away in the hip. Now, if I would be a 22-year-old yogi, I'm going to try to be a 22-year-old yogi now. Then you cross the foot, standing, the same thing. And you're going all the way. Here's my 22-year-old yoga pose. Same stretch. I did it! So, thank you, Rose. I heard that. Ah, but you see what I mean? That's all about balance and foot in your neck and stuff like that. Just kidding. I don't do that anymore. But that was a little try of doing it standing. And some people really like it standing. Some people really are able to do this stretch standing, holding on to something, and just, it's kind of like stick your butt out backwards and go towards your knee kind of thing. And it really feels so good. If you have a butt. Yes. And so the other one that we always have to do, and we can start with that every morning, is just push your hips out forwards. Major importance because this could be number one actually, and this could be number two forwards, because this, we got to stretch out through the hip flexors in the front and the hips because we sit so much. And remember, those muscles are really short. So this feels really good. Don't do a back bend because we're not 22 anymore, and we don't want to. Oh, we don't want to do that. It's really bad for our back. Yeah. We would have so much fun all be in one room. We would have so much fun. Oh, I'm coming to you someday. So here it's all over forwards, and I don't want to bend so much in my upper back. So it's push your hip out forward instead of bending backwards. Sometimes just when I get up, I do that. Even if I get up from the chair, I do that and I just sit and I'm gonna get up and I'm gonna push forward with my hip a little bit because it was all cramped up. So it's really, really important that we keep them open also in the front of the hip. What else do I have here? Upper body spinal rotations we can do anywhere, holding on to something, just gentle, right? It's kind of like what I do is kind of coming from the Tai Chi thing, where if we do the Tai Chi, we do it very gentle. Remember? Just very gentle, kind of swaying your arms a little bit around your body. I need to get that spinal rotation. If I'm sitting down in the chair, I can hold it a little bit longer and use my chair to push off against. So I really want to have that spinal rotation. That goes out of the window when we get a little bit older, spinal rotation. And we don't like that. And we don't want it. Because, and I see it with men a lot, men that come to me, clients, patients. I see it a lot. They are driving the car with a rear view mirror, but they can't move and look on the back seat of the car. And that's such a big thing for me. Remember, we talk about that a lot. So we have to have that spinal rotation and be able to kind of like look behind us. And it gets harder because I feel that on one side, on my bad side, on the right, where my scoliosis is bad. But if I do it, I have to hold it for a little bit sometimes with a deep breath and an exhale. Just to kind of get that flexibility in there, it actually feels better afterwards. It's just the simple things. A twist is part of the daily movements. A twist is part of the essential movement patterns because we need to be able to pick something up from the couch in the back seat. Or I always say, Smack the kids if they're acting up, right? Oh, bad mama. So on the floor seated, and you get the idea, it's the same thing. Straight legs out front means that we're stretching our hamstrings and our lower back. If we do it standing, then it would look like this. Forwards fold. We just call that forwards fold. Folding. Just either or sitting on the floor or wide-legged a little bit in the chair, just folding. So that is the important one. The hips are the important one. The twists are important. And if you want to stretch the hamstring, we can open the legs a little wider. Two legs in a V. I have that here on the bottom. So if you're sitting on the front or if you're sitting on the floor and you kind of were able to scoot off the couch for a little bit and sit on the carpet, you can try to reach your toes. And you can also try to reach your toes and take one leg up and then reach your toes if you're sitting. So with that one knee to the side, it kind of opens the hip up a little bit. So we make a small little variety of in the stretches that are all benefiting the same areas. The lower back, the inner thigh, the hamstring. So on the floor seated is the same thing. We just have that little V where we have our legs straight forward and we just bend to it. Anytime, my friends, anytime that you can bend forwards is good for your back. It's good for your back. It stretches out a little bit. Now, this is for us once we get down on the floor. We stay there. We don't get back up. If you're on the floor and if you feel comfortable laying on your back, then you can just pull your knees up, kind of massage your back into the floor. This is like when you're on your back, right? And you can do the same thing, just kind of pull one knee in. And if you're on the floor on your back and you pull that knee in, you feel the stretch. So that stuff is really good to do when you're on the floor and you kind of roll your back out and you pull your knees up because we're really getting that gentle little massage, that rocking massage. But the problem is, if you are going to get back up, always do it. And I teach my classes this. I teach my 50 plusers this. Roll to the side, then push yourself up, just like you get out of bed. If you're on the floor, don't try to just roll up and sit up because you might hurt your back. But you roll a little bit to the side, just like in bed, and then you push yourself up with your free hands, just like you would do in bed. And if we do in bed, I'm just working with a gentleman today, a patient who has vertigo really bad, and we're doing vertigo exercises together. And that's the same thing, just gently push yourself up, sit there for a little bit, and then do the next move, right? And that is really healthy for all of us. If we just kind of sit for a little bit and then we go into the next movement pattern. So we just don't have to rush into everything. If you're rushing, then you're more likely to lose your breath or to kind of what do you call it, get out of breath and yeah. And I'll be also talking this month a lot about these movement exercises. If you are watching my show on Saturday afternoons at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. 2 p.m. Eastern Time. You can also see all the shows on Roku and Amazon, Fire TV, and Apple TV. Um, the shows are on my site and follow me on my website, elianhaan.com. I wanted to share that with you. So I'm excited. So here's a whole lot of, oops, there we are already, 45 minutes in, a lot of information. If you have questions, please let me know. Please share. I'm already hot, got to work out. So this is just basics, 5, 6 things to do anywhere and everywhere. Just take it with you and try it in another place. If you're on vacation, do it. So that we don't have the old-fashioned what do we used to say? Well, you know, I can't do it anywhere because there's no classes or there's no fitness center. I like to do the stuff that we can take out. right? And do it home.
So
Thank
there
you,
are,
Carla.
yeah, there are a few questions, Elian.
Thanks.
Rose had a question. Do you recommend using an inversion table, especially when you can't get down on the floor?
Inversion tables are very good for your back. Inversion tables are very good for healthy people. Inversion people, they can be damaging if you are not very healthy, if you do not have the medical advice or the health expert advice, and if you're going too long, because that is not good on your nervous system. So there's a lot of directive coming with the inversion table. I like them personally. I love it, and it feels so good. I prefer really, and I do mine. I don't own one. I go just for what I call maintenance to the chiropractor office and have them do it for me. And then I can do a max of 5 to 8 minutes. For me, that's more than enough. So some people just like to stay there on there forever. Not good for your blood flow, not good for your um yeah, my light is so weird. I'm sorry. Don't know what's going on here today. Um Maybe it's the
So
beautiful weather
Frida
today.
just asked, what is an inversion table? So can you explain what that is for
Oh, an
anyone who
inversion
doesn't know?
table, you can buy it now for just a little over $100. And you can go all the way up to an $800 one. It is kind of like a flatbed, looks like a gurney, and then it is on a rotating device. So you go lay down on it and you clamp your feet in a strip, just in a little band on the end. You clamp your feet in there, and then you just kind of hang back. So my whole body is going whoop, sliding backwards, hanging on my feet. And I love the feeling. You don't have to go all the way diagonal either, so you can adjust them to go in a little bit and a little bit further and a little bit further, and maybe even that way. But the best is to do it with a health expert or wellness expert or with a chiropractor, because I've also seen people that just like, oh, I love it, and then they didn't remember their first name afterwards.
Right.
So,
And Frida asks, what is V steps?
oh, the V step. Oh,
Yeah.
yes. That is from my old aerobic days. You step with your right leg forward and then with your left foot forward in a sort of an open stance. And then you take your right foot back and your left foot back together. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do the disco for you. Here it comes. Ta-da! Here comes the full V step. So much fun. Right? One, two, three, four. One, two, three, four. Here comes the disco version.
You like that version?
Wasn't it, remember? But it's just kind of like a funky step that everybody remembers. Everybody remembers just doing the side step and the feet, side step and the feet. I bring that always in because a lot of us remember that
Yeah.
from the dark days. I was gonna say the good, the good dancing days when
That's
I was
right. Yeah.
very dark, when I was dancing in the disco at night. It's very dark. The good dark days. But
Yes.
yeah, so everybody kind of have that love for those fun steps that we used to come up with that were doable for everybody. The same with that Zumba. I just kind of threw that in, but that is really just kind of the Zumba thing, right? To the side and to the side and step touch and free step. So if you're able to stand and if you're able to put some music on and dance, do it. There's your first four steps. Just so fun, and yeah, thank you for asking. That's our fun disco day. Now I'm hurting my hip. Why
Yeah,
don't you?
right. You'll feel that later.
Just throw it out. Yeah.
Right. So how long do you recommend doing each of these segments, like the arms, for how long would you say?
I always recommend to push yourself to a healthy, um, in a healthy way. So do not do more than what feels good. And when it doesn't feel good anymore, then stop. So if you're doing 10 here and 10 there. And you want to add, after a couple of days, you want to add 5 more to it and do 15, great. But if you are getting tired and exhausted and you feel your heart rate going up, then you stop. So I don't like to, well, I say 30 to 60 seconds with most of the things, or 3 breath with flexibility. So with flexibility, definitely kind of hold for 3 breath or do it 3 times in a slow breath. But don't push yourself too much, because I like that we have to push ourselves to where we believe that we can do it. I absolutely believe that you can do it. Don't even think about it. But when you feel that you had enough, you stop. And I always joke around. I say, well, I can't feel what you're feeling and I don't have any feelings. But for that matter, it is for everybody a very personal journey of how you can go to another level. So if you want to do 3 sets of 10, or you want to start with 1 set of 10, that is amazing. Your accomplishment comes after 2, 3 weeks when you see that you're actually making them a lot easier. It's not so much work anymore. Now you can add on maybe an extra set, or just kind of pat yourself on the back and say, what an accomplishment. It doesn't hurt at all.
So here's a question, and this is the common question always that comes up. If you go down on the floor, what is the best way to safely get up off the floor? I know Eleanor had chatted in that she basically gets up down on the floor and she doesn't even remember getting up if she doesn't go on her knees first, and doesn't even remember how she got up before that. So it's like, how do you, if you're on the floor, what is the best way so you're not straining your back, your knees, and all that?
Yeah. So I have one step for that I train everybody with. If you're on the floor, you have to, from all fours, if you're on your knees, is a very difficult thing. Most of the time, I tell everybody, have the couch or have the chair nearby. Right? So if we have the chair nearby, this is what I train with my patient. So we're on the floor, we're on the mat, right here. You always want to come to the good leg. We want to come to the good leg. So now I'm going to go to the good leg. This is my stronger leg. I'm going to move my weight towards the knee, and then that way I can step onto this leg and move my weight into it and push myself up with 2 hands. Did you see what I did? I pushed myself up with 2 hands into, woo! I made a lot of noise there. I push myself up with my hands. If I have the chair handy or if I have the wall handy, you push yourself up and you hold on to the chair. So then that way there's only one way of going down. That's the same way. You go hold on to something and you go on the good leg. I stay on my strong leg and I bend that strong leg and then I put the other one on the floor. So deciding which one is the strong one is important in that. So you can really help yourself getting up on the good side. Does that answer the question?
Yeah.
And on the floor, not so good for your knees. Make sure you have a towel, a blankie, roll up your mat double, or fold it over a little bit so that we have some extra padding.
Okay. And well, just before we get to Jen, I see your hand up. Isn't it, Sherry said, is it dangerous to use a chair with wheels for supporting during exercise?
Yes, 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 and yes. So mine is not a good example, my office chair, because
So yes, a stationary chair. She just use that chair for
stationary, just
demo
a very
purposes.
simple
Yes.
stationary chair, preferably always a dining chair, right? The one with a nice, strong, solid back, and maybe some arms, but the one that you can sit up straight in with a hard surface. So that's what we want to sit on. So the office, this one is all over the place. So this one, apologies, not a good
Yeah, that was a
example.
test, Sherry. We were just testing to make sure everybody was listening, and you passed. So there you go, A+. And there's Jen. Go ahead.
So, I mean, I do all these exercises. I have a terrible lower back, flares up all the time out of nowhere. Tomorrow, I'm going to be in a car for 8 hours. I'm very nervous. Like, what should I be doing sitting in the car?
So there's not much that you can do sitting in the car except for getting a tennis ball, Jen, and put the tennis ball underneath your right bottom and then underneath your left bottom so that you can release the deeper layers of the muscle system. You're putting a dent in it, sitting on the tennis ball. You put a dent in the muscle so that it automatically has to relax and release. And that way you can alternate that a little bit, then take them away and then put it again. So I'm putting it right here, just under my sit bone. I gotta find my sit bone, and then underneath I put a tennis ball, and that is good for keeping those muscles from constantly wanting to cramp up. And the first thing that I do when I get out of the car, and I just did that last weekend, I went, to the north, and then I had to be on the airport the whole day and all that terrible stuff of traveling. Um, it's just not fun. It's the minute you step out of the car, same thing. You want to stretch this because you've been here the whole time. So you want to stretch this out. And if you're able to, you can try to get the foot in the hand, right?
Mhm.
That's a little bit more difficult. But if you're able to, you can then you stretch the hip as well. Right? So the hip stretches are important. Make the twist, that kind of thing. There's nothing else that you can do while you're sitting down. That's kind of like a forced thing. But move the hips forwards if you can. And I take a tennis ball everywhere with me just to kind of release those deeper layers
Smart.
of the bottom muscles. Yeah. It helps the
Thank you.
sciatic. Yeah.
Yeah.